In the last video, we started talking about structs in Go. Structs are used widely throughout the entire language, and so it's really important to have a solid grasp on exactly how they work. To make sure that we get some really good fundamentals, we're going to work on a very simple, very straightforward project to just kind of explore how we can define and make use of structs. So we just put together this new main.go file. Let's start off by first adding our usual project boilerplate. So at the top, we'll define package of main, and then we'll define our main function. Okay, so let's talk about the struct that we're going to make inside of here. So whenever we make a struct, we have to first define all of the different properties that a struct might have. We're going to provide this in some type of rule set to Go, and then we can create a value that matches that type of structure definition. Now for this particular project, I want to imagine that we're going to make a struct to represent a person, like you or me. So we'll say that every person maybe has a first name that we want to record, and maybe they also have a last name. So let's take a look at how we're going to do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell Go exactly what different fields a person should have. So we're going to tell Go that a person should have a property of first name and a property of last name. And then we're also going to specify the type of both of those fields. So we're going to say that a first name is a string, and of course a last name is going to be a string as well. So step one, again, is to define exactly what different fields this struct has. And then for step two, we'll create a new value of type person. And so essentially you can think of this as being an actual implementation or an actual copy of a person. And so we can make as many actual people as we want, or as many values of type person as we want. One for each person that we might want to model inside of a given program. So essentially, after we tell Go, or after we define exactly what a person is, we can create as many people as we wish inside of our program. So let's now flip back over to our code editor and figure out exactly how we initially define what this struct is. Okay, so we're going to change back over, and then right above our main function declaration, we're going to add a little bit of code to define this new struct and tell Go exactly what properties it should have. To do so, we're going to write out type, person, struct, and then curly braces. This syntax right here probably looks pretty familiar to some of the syntax we used back on the cards project when we defined a new type of cards, or excuse me, we had defined a type of deck. So in this case, we are defining a new custom type that's going to exist only inside of our program. This is a type person, and it's going to be a struct with the following fields. So let's define a first name field and a last name field. So we're going to say that every person can have a first name of type string, and they can have a last name of type string as well. Now when we define these different fields or these different properties for this struct, you'll notice that we are not separating them by any commas, by colons, semicolons, anything like that. It's just a very plain, here's the property name, and here's the type that it should be. So now that we've created a definition of what a person is, we can now create values inside of our application that match up with this struct. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back in the next section, and we're going to figure out all the different ways that we can create a value of type person, because there are, as you might imagine, more than one. So let's take a quick break and continue in the next section.